Hi parents, here we are. We just completed week 15 this week. And once we finished Blue Books, we actually completed our experiment in class with our class experiment. So now that we have totally completed our lab journal, I wanted to go over it a little bit for the final components that you'll be working on over the break. So in the previous videos, we have already taught through all of these things. We've gotten through the bibliography and we've moved down to the experimentation and data. So let me flip open our lab journal and get to some of the components where we're at. Now we always begin, the whole purpose of our experiment is we're testing our hypothesis that we believe Bounty paper towels are the most absorbent out of the brands that we are teaching. So real quick, let me just, once again, remember we've written out our procedure. We had to go back to this today and check and make sure we had all of our materials, make sure we followed our procedures. We discussed our risk and safety to see if we needed to add anything in there. My goodness, I can't get the page turned. See if we needed to add anything in there. We talked about whether or not, glass would break on carpet. Should we say do it on carpet? So we just discussed these things and decided that they were good. We were going to leave our risk and safety. We talked about our data analysis method, and then we made a large chart on our board, and we'll talk about that in a minute, so that we could actually start our experiment. And remember, I just stapled in our bibliography because so many of our resources that we use in class were online. It was just easier that way. All right, so we go back to our experimentation. Now, we started in our lab journal. I started last night because I did a little bit of pre-work to make our experiment go faster in class because I knew we would only have about an hour in class to get this done. So I went ahead, got all of our supplies together. I measured out our paper towels because we talked about how some of our paper towels were pick a size, some were full sheets, and we needed to make sure that we were measuring the same size. So I had to go through, and there was one paper towel that we had to cut to make sure it was the same size as the other ones we were measuring. So I did all that. And we also talked about how the folding could bring in a different variable, because one of the things we learned about in our background research was the adhesive they used on the bottom of the paper towel could affect absorption. So we talked about how it would be important that they were all folded the same way so that that one element could not be considered to be a variable. So I pre-folded it, put them in bags, and then we had it in class. We pulled it out. In class, we divided our team in classes. So I was the 6th team, gave everyone their materials, and then we went ahead and we did our experiment. Now, all I said was, basically, we did the experiment. And in our table, because I was afraid I would run out of room, we just said all of our results are milliliters of water. And then in class, as we tested a paper towel, we wrote it in on a giant pocket chart or a giant chart paper so that we could go back and I could bring it home and add it into our journal. So we did all of this. The only thing we did not do in class is we did not come up with an average, just simply because we ran out of time. So I did that. We talked about what we thought the average would be, because some of if you look at the numbers, there's a huge discrepancy between Sparkle paper towels absorbency, Members Mark, which is Sam's Club absorbency, Publix absorbency, which were very similar to Sparkle, Brawny, which was very similar to Sam's Club, and then you get over here to Bounty paper towels, and they pretty much rocked everything out of the park. So we took that information, and when we talked about in here, we talked about our data analysis. We had our chart, so I remade the chart in here. We recorded all of our information. And then I went through and we recorded the average absorbency of each paper towel. So we basically, at this point in time, we're done with our experiment. We know what the results are. Here is overall what the average is. So once we're done with that, we move to really the conclusions. And in our conclusions, this is what we said. Our hypothesis was correct. That's the whole point of the experiment. Is your hypothesis correct? Ours was. Our hypothesis was correct. Bounty is the most absorbent paper towel out of the brands we tested. Then we went through and we listed, what are some possible problems? So in class we talked about, different people were squeezing them because we had different teams. So they could be squeezing them differently. There might have been some drops that didn't get into our our cylinders we were measuring. So all of those things could be considered variables. However, looking at the water on the table, we realized although these could be variables, we don't think that they would actually dramatically change our results. There's not going to be anything significant from those changes, so we don't feel like it compromised the validity of our experiment. And then we talked about, well, what could we do if we did it again? One, we would measure things differently. Instead of having to squeeze water, we could just measure the amount of water remaining in the beaker. Since we all began with the exact same amount of water, we could just measure what was still in the beaker. So we could just change the way we measure. Or another thing is, now that we know Bounty is the best, we could create a completely different experiment. And we could find out, is Bounty truly the quicker picker-upper? And we could test the speed of absorbency. So we put all of that in our conclusions. And that's it. We're done with our lab journal. Yay! Make sure your entries are dated. Now that I have all this, what happens next? Well, at home, they should be working on their plan. So let me grab this. I went ahead, as we have done this in class, I have gone ahead and I have typed it in our plan. So this is the plan we've worked on the entire year. So we have everything that's in here is exactly what's in our lab journal, except for this background research, which is a summary. I mean, we have pages and pages of background research in here from when we were, we did research for every single paper towel that we were checking. We talked about the patterns that were on the paper towels, since we know that they're important. All that information is summarized in our background research. Then we have our hypothesis. We have our procedures, which are identical to what is in our lab journal. Our materials, our risk and safety. We basically took what we put in here for risk and safety. Let me open it up in here real quick. No, let me go back. I'm almost there. Data analysis. Bibliot. Should be before that. Oh my gracious, I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness. It's in here. There it is. We took, we listed 5 things. We took those 5 things and we turned it into a paragraph where we just listed in a paragraph form our risk and safety. Our data analysis method. In here we kind of gave an explanation and talked about it. And all we did in here is, hey, we're going to create a data table and this is what we're going to check. So all that is identical. Our bibliography, I printed this out and stapled it in. And then the last part is our analysis of data. So in your Challenge A guide, this is where it gets a little confusing about how this plays into the plan. According to the guide, it has it as part of the plan. However, if you notice, it also says that it's for the final research paper. So whether or not this is included in the plan, I would definitely say it's up to the parent. There are varying views on this. The reality is officially the plan is what is the plan. The paper is giving the final results of the experiment. So whether or not you include this in the plan is really going to be up to you. I do, because once it's in the plan, it's super easy to put it in the paper. So let me show you how I did that. So in here, our analysis of data, I just basically said we did our 6 trials, we recorded it, we have the average. That's it. That's your analysis of data. Your conclusions. So what we wrote in our lab journal, if you remember what I just said, you know, we said, hey, our hypothesis is correct. We had some possible problems. Here are some other things we would do again. That's exactly what's in here. We said our hypothesis was correct. We think the test went smoothly, but here are some possible variables that we put in there that could have altered our data, but we don't feel like it actually altered the outcome of the experiment. If we were going to do it again, we might take a different approach in measuring it. And then an interesting future study would be, is Bounty truly the quicker picker-upper? So when I'm done with that, guess what? I am done with my plan. My plan is now complete. Then on my computer, I take this, I select it, I copy it, and I start a new document, which has become my paper. When you complete this, your paper is almost finished. Because now all you're doing is you're going to go in and you're going to change your formatting. You take it out of your outline format, you center your headings, and you turn them into paragraphs that are indented. This is APA style. So you've got your header at the top. If you follow APA style, it will do everything for you. Your procedure is still basically in the exact same format that it was in before. Your materials can just become a bulleted list. Your risk and safety, your data analysis, it's the exact same. I have not altered a single thing other than the formatting. So I don't have to go back and redo anything. My bibliography remains the same. And in reality, this last part, which is your analysis of your data and your conclusion, which are the last things that you add in, this is really what makes it your paper versus your plan. Did that come out? Yes, your paper versus plan. And basically, it's for me, because I put it in my plan, all I did, once again, was change the formatting. Now, for my class, if you choose to not put this in your plan and only have it in your paper, thumbs up for me. I'm good with that. I don't have a problem with that, because the reality is your plan for your experimentation, and your paper are your results of your experimentation. So once you have this, I put my analysis of data, I put my conclusion. It's in the exact same paragraph forms I have over here, which is why I say, if you do this, you're done. Now, a big difference is when you get to this part and you're doing your analysis of your data and your conclusion, it is now past tense. Everything else up until this point has been future tense, because it's what you're going to do. Now you've already done it. So you've switched to past tense so that you can tell me the actual results of what happened with your study. All of this is really, if you can get this done over the break, oh my goodness, your life will just be so much easier when you come back. If you look in your guide and you look at what is due for week 1 of second semester in science, you're going to see it has complete your research over the break, complete your data analysis, and your conclusion after your experimentation, add them to your research plan, and then come ready to discuss your project. All that's done. When you start getting into week 2, now all of a sudden they're like, all right, now take your plan, turn it into your paper, do your rough draft. Well, guess what? If you've already done your plan, that is your rough draft. I mean, you already know it's exactly what you want. And it gives you the specific steps. This is for week 2 of second semester. It gives you the specific step of what to do. It gives you the steps of what to do to turn your paper or your plan into your paper, which tells you, remove the Roman numerals, keep the headers, check for spelling, add transitional phrases, make sure it's APA, all of these things. If you're doing it at the same time, so when you get it in your plan, you get it in your paper, you're already ahead of where you need to be. And as soon as we start back second semester, you'll be ready to start working on your actual presentation and your board, which will be a great place. If you're in my class and you are struggling with your project, please, please, please contact me and let me know. Let me help you guys through it, because I want this to be something you feel successful at. And I know you guys are going to do such a great job. So moms and dads, if you have any questions, please email me, let me know, and I will help you any way I can. I hope this has been helpful. Please reach out if you need anything. Thanks so much.